Okay, now we can start. Why the slideshow doesn't hold up? Okay, okay. So the first chapter is regarding Python programming language review, and here is a textbook in a website, and you can go there to take a look. Okay, so the first question is why we choose Python as our data analytic. So the first discussion is about its advantage for the Python. Okay, and over here, I will try if the pen works. So over here, I gave the four components of the advantage. The first is regarding the simplicity. Okay, so regarding simplicity, and over here it has a concept. It's called interpreted programming language. So it says Python is an interpreted programming language, and I believe all of you also learned some other programming language like Java or C++, or C sharp, something like that. Is it? So normally we consider them as a high level and object-oriented programming language. And they are not interpreted language, okay? They are compiled programming language. So for compiled programming language, the idea is it has a compiler. So you have the source code. Is it like a .java or like a .cpp file? Is it that source code? And then the compiler going to compile the source code to machine code. Okay. And then the CPU will run the machine code. So basically, the machine code will also be loaded into memory, and then the CPU is going to run it. Okay. And so for any application, it's the complete program. Okay, including like some library. And if you learned those language, you know, like you need to import it or like include so those libraries. Okay, so they are going to be compiled and then into machine code, and then the CPU is going to load from the memory to run it. And like in the C++ case, that program after compile, it's the exe file. Okay, so that program is going to be run. Okay, exe file, and when you distribute, you only distribute that exe file, not the source code. Okay. So that's what the compiler does. Okay. And basically it's a binary code file. Okay. And but it needs a compiler to compile it. And so the advantage of this mode is it runs faster, runs faster. Okay. And so compare with the compiled programming language, Python is interpreted language. So interpreted language, so it doesn't need the compiling process. So from the source code, okay, like the .py. So Python, the extension is .py. the file. Okay, so it doesn't need a compiler to compile it to the machine code to be run. So what it happens with Python program is like over here it explained. So the code, basically the Python code is going to be executed line by line, okay, by an interpret at runtime. So when you run a Python program, it needs a Python interpret to run it. Otherwise, it cannot be run. Okay, it's not like the compiled programming language like the exe file. You just directly run it. Okay, you have the application, then you can go ahead to run it. So for Python, then, but so it needs to be executed line by line. Okay, so kind of like a command by command, is by an interpreter. So compared with the compiled programming language, then we say it's simple because it's line by line. It's not the complete program, is it? But because of it needs an interpreter and it's not compiled to the binary code, so it's slower. It runs slower compared with compiled programming languages application. Okay. But then you may ask, then why we choose Python for data analytics? Is it? So Python basically right now it's the most popular programming language in data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analytics. Okay, so in this field, the major task it deals with is to process. We can also say like a kind of interpret. Is it a large data set? And we will learn that. So large data set. And I believe you all have experience with Excel sheet. Is it? So this data set basically is kind of like a huge Excel sheet. Okay, probably involves millions lines of millions of rows, okay, and millions of rows. And the columns may even be thousands or even like 10,000s, okay. So that's a huge Excel sheet, is it? And if you use that huge Excel sheet, if you wanted to process it, it's a lot of time what I heard is basically it's stuck there. Okay. But if we use Python programming language, then we will see it's much efficient. Okay, much efficient. And so over here, it doesn't care about too much about speed because like in machine learning and artificial intelligence, even we train model, it takes a lot of time. Okay. Uh, but like for C and C++, okay, they used a lot like in embedded system. And for embedded, it's real time. And a lot of times the speed does matter. Is it when the program execution speed, it does matter. Okay. So then in that case, yeah, of course, those compiled programming language has advantages. Okay. So that's the discussion about the first component of the advantages about simplicity. Okay. And here it lists three other advantages, the components. The second one is the rich ecosystem of the libraries. Yeah, definitely through these years, is it especially most recent um, uh, popularity of the ChatGPT, is it the generative AI, is it? Yeah, so rich ecosystem of the libraries, we are going to learn some of it, like the NumPy package we're going to learn, pandas we are going to learn, and scikit-learn, that's machine learning, we are also going to learn. But TensorFlow and PyTorch, they two mostly used for neural network, the deep learning, okay? And we probably will not touch those, okay? That's in another class in machine learning. And also Python also has a large open source community. Okay, so it has a lot of support for development. And also the Python language, its scalability, it also has quite advantages. It's suitable to a wide range of the projects. And one other thing here it said regarding simplicity is Python also can be kind of some script programming language. Okay, so so script and interpreted it has some similarity, but also has some differences. A script, and I believe you learned like Linux operating system, is it? And you need to do like share programming, is it? To do some automation work, automation, like file handling, like those, okay. And script language is used a lot in those tasks. So we know the advantage of Python programming language, and so the next is you need to install Python, okay, on your local machine to go ahead to use it. For some reason, my pen doesn't work anymore. Okay. So here I list in my book, I also gave the link, and it's pretty straightforward, and there are a lot of resources available over the internet, and you can refer, okay, install Python and install Anaconda. And because this course is not about Python programming language, okay, it's about data analytics. So I would recommend you do the installation of Anaconda, and that's going to make everything easy, okay, working. What I mean is locally, okay. Because with Anaconda, you install, you don't need to worry about the all different sorts of Python packages like NumPy, pandas installation, and plotting software installation. You know, like scikit, you don't need, because if you just install Python, then you need to install all of those packages individually. Okay. So I recommend you can go with Anaconda. So this will work locally on your PC or laptop. Okay. And over here, it also lists IDEs for Python. Okay. So, and Anaconda also include the launching point for all of this IDEs like PyCharm, Visual Studio Code, Spider, and the Jupyter Notebook. Okay. And for our class, we are going to use Jupyter Notebook. And Jupyter Notebook is especially uh, nice for data analytics and machine learning, okay, because it is a web application for creating and doing the computation work for the task. And the nice thing is it also has similar like the web page comments part for the documentation of your project. It's very neat, okay, and we will see that. And another advantage is after you complete like one notebook, you can also publish it as HTML file. So it also supports that, okay, so that you can publish it and share it, okay. So that's a nice thing. And but sometimes for if we use a Jupyter Notebook, is it always locally? Sometimes it may not be convenient because maybe you are on trip, okay, you are on airplane or airport, and you still want to work on your project, is it? Then in that case, I would recommend you can use the Google Colab. Okay, you can Google it. But you need to have a Google account to use the Google Colab. And the Google Colab basically is Jupyter Notebook. It's almost the same. There's just a little bit of difference, okay? But in this case, you can work on the go, okay? So it's cloud-based, okay? And also the other advantage for Jupyter for Google Colab is it's web-based. There is no need to install Python and Jupyter Notebook and all of the other libraries packages. You don't need to worry about the installation, okay? But we will see later on, okay? For Google Colab, there is a disadvantage is for the files, local files. Okay, so then that's going to be not convenient compared with locally of the dataset files. Okay, then let's move to the Python programming language itself. Okay, so we start with the basics. So for the basics, the very first, no matter which programming language, okay, we always start with variables. Okay, so variable, the concept, it's a little bit of like math. It's as if you learn the math, like algebra, X, Y, Z. It's as those, we also call them variable. Okay, so in programming language, we also have variable. So in Python, same thing, it has variable. That's the basic stuff, okay, because you need it to store data. Okay, a variable to store data. But there is a big difference for Python is Python's variable no type. Okay, because Python is not a typed programming language. So the variable is just a name. There is no type. Okay, then you can give it value. Like suppose you do x equals 10. So this is kind of like math, is it? So what that means is this is integer number 10. So basically this integer number 10. So here is your machine's memory. Okay, so in memory, so there are 4 bytes of memory. So number 10 is going to be stored in that 4 bytes of memory. Okay, and then this memory, then it needs a name. Is it so? This variable basically is just a name reference to this memory location. Okay. So in Python, you just do x equals 10, okay, for the statement. Also, Python statement doesn't end with a semicolon, not like other programming language, okay? But in other programming language, like in Java or C++, what you need to do is you need to do like integer x equals 10, semicolon, is it? So this variable name is called x. The type, this is type, data type, it's integer. Okay, and once you declare it, you cannot change it. So it can only store integer, okay, in other programming language, but that's not true for Python. For Python, the variable can also change it to store different type of data. Okay, so now like in this case, the first we store 10, and next you can change it like to let it store a string. Okay, so this is a string literal, is it? String literal. And we put them in quotation mark. Okay, so just some words, okay, put them in quotation mark. So in programming language, this is called string literal, is it? But you see in Python, then later on, you can also assign string literal to the same variable previously stored the integer, is it? So now x holds the string. So the string then is going to be stored somewhere and it takes certain number of bytes. Is it? So then this time x is going to point here. And of course, when x refer to this memory location, the previous integer 10's memory location, then not going to be referenced by x anymore. Okay, so it use the latest one to refer the memory location. So we see like over here in my slide sets, it's Python variable are not explicitly typed. So this is a huge difference, okay? It can also change. So that's why we also see Python programming language is very flexible, okay? Easy to use, okay? We don't need to worry a lot of rules, okay? And then in Python, we still have data type. But the data type, not like other programming language, the data type associated with variable. In Python, the data type associated with objects. Okay, and the object is going to be referenced by the variable. Okay, so what are the data types in Python it supports? So here I list some of them. Okay, like numbers, string, data structure, function, class, even module, okay, consider some data type or object. Is a Python object, and there are also some data types. And we see, is it? So data type is associated with objects directly. And then variable refer to the Python objects. Okay. And regarding data types, so we have integers, we have like integers, we also have floats, we have strings, and those are data structures. And we are going to learn, okay. Okay, and then first, let's take a look at the numbers. So that's the most basic one. Okay, so number in Python, it include two types, integer and floats. Okay, and we all know from math, is the integer is a whole number without decimal point. And the floating number is numbers with decimal point. Okay, and so in our textbook, I also gave the code samples. Okay, so like in this case, this int val, so this is variable. So that's the first concept we learned, is a variable, okay? So this number 10 is an integer number, so it's stored in somewhere in memory. And now this variable reference this number 10. So that memory location is referred by this variable, okay? And then we also has the second variable called float variable, okay? And the number here, it's a floating line, it's 9.999 with five decimal points, is it? So same thing, this decimal number, this floating number is stored somewhere in the memory, okay? And then this variable refer it, okay? And then here is another. So each of this each of this, we call it a statement in programming language. Yeah, please take a close look. Python doesn't have the semicolon, okay, not like other programming language. In other programming language like this float, then you need to do like a double float var equals 9.99, then semicolon, is it? But that's not true for Python program, no semicolon, okay? And this is the output statement, okay? Output to screen, okay? Not output to file, okay? Output to screen. Output to, this is a function, Python function. And the Python function always have the parentheses, okay? And then you plug in arguments. We call whatever plug in arguments, okay? And this output statement has a F started as it begin with the F. So this means it's a formatted output. It supports formatted output. Okay, and then over here, so we have double quotation mark. So within double quotation mark supposed to be string literal. So everything supposed to be string literals. Okay. But over here, yeah, this is going to be string literal. String literal means whatever you write in your code will be output exactly like that. So this is the output, is it? But if you take a look, this part is different. This part is output whatever the variable's value. The value is the variable stored, is it? So here we have the curly brackets. Okay, within curly bracket, what we put is a variable name. So that's placeholder. Placeholder, okay, for the value. Okay, otherwise you need to write 10, is it? If you want it dynamic, not a fixed one, as it depends on the variable's value, is it? Then you can put the placeholder within the brackets, okay? And same thing here, okay? And you put a comma as it to separate it. And here, same thing, you have the placeholder. So you plug in the variable, okay? And this part, this we call it formatted output. Because you only want the output to have 2 decimal points. So F means the floating, is it? With 2 decimal floating. So you can take a look, the output just have 2 decimal points instead of the original one. Exactly. So it's not exactly the same as the original one. Okay, so just be careful here. So this is the output statement. Okay, so number is a very first simple one, but we are going to deal with number a lot, okay, in data analytics. And for machine learning, yeah, it's all numbers. And the second, concept is about Python string, okay? So for Python string, so we just learned the double quotation mark. Is it? So whatever insides we call string literal, is it? So then in this case, this two quote var. So this is variable, okay? And what this variable hold is string literal, is it? It's double quotation. And in Python, it also supports single quotation mark for string literal. So whatever is inside the single quotation is also considered as a string. This is also different from other programming language. Other programming language, single quotation mark, you can only have one letter. It's called character. Okay, but that's not true. in Python. In Python, within single quotation mark, you can also have multiple letters, okay, even paragraph. But normally for later on, we are going to see for paragraph involves multiple lines. It should be with use like the triple quotation mark, okay. So then you may ask, so why you need to have these two different, almost the same, is it? So the advantage to have both to support a string is sometimes within the string literal, you have single quotation. Is it? Suppose, okay, you want to have this inside. Then in this case, you put the double quotation around it. So then you know, okay, this single quotation is part of the string literal. Okay, it's not the delimiter of the string. So this is different for other programming language. If you want to put it, then you need to have a slash, is it? Then put it, okay, to let the compiler know that this is not for string. This is part of the string literal, is it? Yeah, and the same thing for the single quotation, then you can have the double quotation mark. Then within it, it knows, okay, this is part of the string literal, okay. So that's single quotation, double quotation. And then the third one is triple quotation. So triple quotation is for multi-line strings. And also it used a lot for Python's doc strings, okay. And then here, same thing, we want to output the three string variables value is it? And same thing here, we use the placeholder. Okay, so you put the variable in the placeholder. And if you take a look here, we have /n. So this is the same thing as other programming language. Okay, so this represent it's going to go to another line. So that's why you say the output, even though we wrote just in one line, but the output is in each variable's value start with a new line. That's because over here you have that /n. So that's carriage return, enter, okay. So represent for new line. Okay, and the next concept is about Python object. In the previous diagram, we already shows what can be considered as Python objects. Okay, so like numbers, strings, and the class, modules is the functions. So this in Python, the concept is a little bit different from other programming language. Okay, other programming language they are not so like a class doesn't not class like numbers they are primary data type, is it? So they are not considered as objects. Okay, like a function will not be considered as objects. Okay, but in Python they are all considered objects. Okay. But over here, we are going to later on, in this chapter, we focus on those objects, data structure, list, tuple, dictionary, and sets. Okay, then let's start with Python's some basic data structure. Okay, and previously, if you recall, we learned that int var is it equals 10. So then in this case, it only store a single value. Okay, but in the real world, that's much more complex. Not always just you want to store a single value. If you want to store a group of items together, so what do we do? Is that's involved the concept of data structure. Okay. In other programming language, you also have array concept, is it? So array can store a fixed number of items. And in Python, then we have like a list, tuple, dictionary, and sets. Okay. All of this are linear. Okay. They store sequence of items. So they are considered as sequence data structure. Okay, because data structure concept is quite broad. It also involves like a tree data structure, graph data structure. But over here, we are only consider the sequence data structure because that's enough for us to do data analytics. Okay. So it's going to store a number of items. Okay, and for list, the first one is list. So list, it store what? It's store collection of elements. So a group, okay. And here also another key concept is ordered. So what this ordered means, it means that it's preserved the order that items are added. Preserve the adding order. When the item is added, first added, second added, is it? So it's going to preserve that order. Okay, so it's an order collection of elements. Okay, and also each item, it can be any data type. So this is also different from other programming language. Okay, in other program, like in Java, it's different. Suppose for list, then you do like linked list, is it? And the string type. Okay, so okay, that's the linked list string type data structure, is it? So then you also need to initiate it, so like a new linked list. Okay, and so then for this linked list, this SL, it can only store string. It cannot store any other data type, but that's not true for Python. Okay, Python's list can store heterogeneous collection of data. Okay, so like over here it shows. So here we have a list. So this is a variable, it's still a variable, okay? But this variable store a list. If you take a look, the items, the elements, so each of it, we call it an element. Each element, the type you will see, the first one is an integer. Second one is a string. Third one is float. The next one, this is Boolean. Boolean value only, there are only two values for Boolean, either true or false. Okay. The next one, this is a list. And the next one, this is called a dictionary. So later on, we are going to learn. Okay. But anyway, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 elements in this list. But you see, the 6 elements are all different data type. Is it? They are all different type. So Python list support them. So very convenient. It's very flexible. Okay. Not that strict as other programming language. So that's why, we say Python programming language, not like Java, is it? Like those type of language, we call it like Java It is strongly tied programming language. Okay. But for Python, no, it's not a type. Is it? We already learned variable doesn't need a type for declaration. Is it? Variable just exist with whatever the value it reference. And here again, we see like the list, it even support heterogeneous type. Is it? Okay, then for list, so how do we create it? Is it so you can create with bracket? There are also other approaches that you can create. So next class we can do some exercise with it. Okay, and so it can be created with brackets. Okay, and then elements separated by comma, just like this this line of code shows. This line of code shows. So it create a list with 6 elements. Okay. And with a square bracket, be careful, okay. For list, it's square brackets. And then we can also output a list. Okay. So over here, we just use that print statement. And then in this case, okay, so this is a string literal, is it string literal? And for print statement, and this is not a formatted output, is it? Not a formatted output. We don't have that F before the quotation mark. Then in this case, whatever the variable name, you need to just put it where my pen is. I cannot see. Oh, it's too small. So here, you need to have a comma and then the variable. Okay, so that's for this case. And another feature for list is it says it's mutable. So what is mutable mean? Mutable means you can update the value. Okay, like the var list. So what you can do is you can do like var list. Suppose you want to change the first elements to 100. Then you can do this. You can change it. Okay, update. You can also add new items. Where my pen is? You can also add new items. So call the append function. Okay. And with the append in this case, you may see, oh, it has 2 items. No, this is considered as 1 item. Why? Because it's a list, a single item. Okay. So be careful. In Python, append, whatever in append is single item. So over here, even though there are multiple, but those multiple items are included in a list, that list is still considered a single item. Okay. And if you want to add multiple items, you need to have another function called expand. Okay. And you can do some research on it. And after that, then we can also, here have another print statement to show the updates. Okay. And if you're interested, you can also do this exercise. So that's list. The first data structure is list, okay. The second one, where am I? Okay. The second one is called a tuple, okay. So tuple is identified with parentheses. List is square brackets, okay, in Python. So tuple is parentheses. And the tuple is the same thing, it's an ordered collection of elements. This is the same as a list, okay. But there's a big difference between list and tuple is immutable. You cannot change it. Okay, so let's take a look at this example here. So here we have that variable name, is it? And here you create a tuple. So basically you see all of the elements are the same as the previous example list, is it? But over here, we store them using this parenthesis. So this is a tuple, that means. What this means is once of these items stored in this tuple, then you cannot change the tuple. So there is no such thing like var tuple sub-0 equals 100. No, you cannot update. Okay, you cannot. Because it's immutable. And you cannot add or remove new items. Okay. You cannot add or remove items. So there is no append. Okay. And this, of course, it can also support heterogeneous collection of items. Okay. And here it says it's created with parentheses. Okay. There are other approaches that you can create. You can call constructor like with tuple. Okay. Same thing for list. You can call list a constructor. Okay. And later on, we're also going to learn, you can also create using like list comprehension, tuple comprehension. Okay, the third data structure that we are going to learn is dictionary. And dictionary is a very, very useful data structure, okay? Especially if you want to do search. So dictionary is very efficient. In lookup. So its time complexity for lookup is order of a constant. Okay, so right there, just one with the key. Okay, and with list and tuple, the search, generally speaking, is linear because you need to do one by one compare, is it? Or if you arrange like a binary search is log 2n. But in that case, the data needed to be sorted already, is it? But for dictionary, so the advantage is it's efficient in lookup. Okay, lookup. Why? That's because for dictionary, it's not just a single, each element is a single item. Okay, it's a key value pair. It's a pair. Okay, and then it has a requirement because you're going to look up based on what? Look up using key. Using key. So this is kind of something like your address book, phone book. Is it? You use name, then find the phone number. Is it something like that? So that's why it's very quick. But the key has special requirement. It must be unique. Okay, you cannot repeat the key. So key cannot duplicate. Also, key is immutable, cannot be changed. So not every data type can be a key. So common data type like here says a string, because string is immutable. Number is immutable. Tuple is immutable. See, so they can serve as key, but not list. List cannot serve as key because it can be changed. Okay. It also needed to be hashable. Okay. Hash concept is also very, very useful concept in computer science. Okay. So the hash involves the hash function, etc. So with some complicated input, then using hash, it will generate some alphanumeric um, so with either letters or numbers, is it? And it's also unique, okay? And because of the hashable, so that's why it's fast in lookup, okay? And but for the dictionary, the value part is very flexible. It can be any data type, okay? Numbers, list, dictionary, even some customized objects, okay? And the key doesn't store the value, okay? So value store the actual information. So because key is served as search, kind of like index, okay? Because in other data structure, we use index, like for list and tuple, we just showed, is it? So this means index. The index 0 means the first item, is it? But in a dictionary, don't have this index, is it? So what we use key to do the search, okay? And also for dictionary, it doesn't preserve the order, okay? So it's not an ordered sequence, okay? But even though key is immutable, but dictionary itself is mutable. So it's allow you to add a new item, update item, and also remove item. Okay. When you create a dictionary, you use bracket. Okay, use curly brackets. So previously we learned the square brackets, parentheses, and now we use curly brackets. Okay. And still item separated by comma, okay? But within the key value pair, we use a colon to separate the key and value, okay? We will see in our example. Okay, so here is our example. So for this example, if you take a look, so this is variable name, okay? And here we use the curly brackets to create this dictionary. And within the dictionary, you see we have one pair, two pair, three pair, and the fourth pair. We have four pair items, okay? And we separated them using comma. Okay, and each pair, if you take a look, it's separated key value. So key colon, and value. So that's one item in a dictionary. Okay. And over here, the key, you see, it's all string, is it? So they are immutable, cannot be changed. Okay. And then let's see. So you see, how do you access? So it's different from list and tuple, is it? So you specify key to access. So what it will give you, it will give you the value, is it? Okay, simple, what it will give you. So this ticker, what it will get AAPL, okay? And you can also update the value part, but you cannot update key. Okay, key is once you create it, it's there. It will not be changed. Okay, and over here you can also add. So this you add a pair, new pair, the year and its value. Okay, and how do you get all of the keys of the dictionary? You can just call the dot keys. Okay, so this is a variable that refer to the dictionary and use dot And this keys, this is a function of dictionary. Okay, so what it will return symbol, shares, price, and total value. Those are four keys. Oh, and also the year, five keys. Okay, it will return five keys. And over here, so this is another approach to create a dictionary. So here, basically, we create a dictionary. Oh, no, not dictionary, I'm sorry. We create a list. Okay, so over here, you do list, then parentheses. So you plug in the values, sequence of values. Okay, so sequence of items. Okay, so then in this case, this we call it lists constructor. So in this case, you use list constructor to create a list. Create a list. Okay, so that's what we do here. And the same thing for the value part. Okay, you call the dot value and you will get all the five value and then you add them to the list. You create a list. Okay. And if you want to have both key and value, then you can call dot items. So this will return the pair with colon. Okay. And you can run it and you will get uh, the output, what it looks like. And I didn't put it on my slides. Okay. And what the next one shows another function in a dictionary called the get function. Okay, so the get function, what it says, if the key exists, then what it will return is it will return the associated value. Okay, suppose if you call the dot get year, then you also put like over here net, but what you will return, you will get is 2023, not the net. Okay, but like in this case, this going up, this key doesn't exist in the dictionary, so it will return you this value. Okay, those net value. So that's what it means. Okay. So it said if the key doesn't exist, then it will return the second argument. So each of this, we call it an argument. Because this get, this is in programming language, this is called a function. Okay, within the function, not always, but sometimes you need to plug in some value, is it, or some variable, okay? So those we call them argument, okay? So it says if this argument doesn't, if the key doesn't exist, then it will return whatever the net, okay, over here. We will see this net a lot, so not a number, okay, in data analytics. There is another function for Python. It's called in Python called set default associated with dictionary. Okay, so another dictionary function called set default. What it does is that it will add to the dictionary. Okay, it says set default modify the dictionary if the key doesn't exist. Okay, so it add to the dictionary with this value now. Okay. Okay, and the next data structure that we will discuss is set. Okay, so for set, when you create, if you take a look at example, it's similar as dictionary, as it also curly bracket. But within it, if you take a look, It's not the colon key value pair. It's just some single elements. Okay. And the feature for set is it only allow unique elements. Okay. So over here, even though you have duplicate 10, but when you do the output, you will see only one 10 will be considered. The other 10 will not be considered. Okay, hello will be considered. 9.9 will be considered. True will be considered. The tuple will be considered because all of those are unique. So that's the feature for set. Okay, and also set doesn't preserve order. So there is no order. Okay, so it's just so it's kind of like the math set concept, is it? It's so in math it's a circle and what we put set, is it? That's what we consider set. So set, just keep in mind unique. Okay, so if you want to store some unique item, you can consider set. Okay, if you doesn't care about order. Okay. And also it says elements themselves must be immutable and hashable. Okay, so you cannot have a list within a set. Okay, because it must be immutable. You cannot have dictionary within it. But it allows tuple because tuple is immutable and hashable. Okay, so that's the feature. But set itself is mutable. Okay, so that means it allow add or remove items. Okay. And it can be created with curly brackets. So same thing. You can also use some other approach to create a set. Uh, I think we next slide was that. Okay, so probably let's just stop here today. Okay. I'm going to stop recording.